Okay, so this video is twofold. First of all, a little bit of news. Something that isn't directly Godzilla vs. Kong related, but is tangentially able to affect it, potentially at least. It was just announced on the James Bond official Twitter feed that the next James Bond movie, No Time to Die, has been postponed and will be released in November of 2020. Now, this is significant Godzilla news because November 2020 is when Godzilla vs. Kong is being released. That movie was pushed back to that month as well. Now, granted, we don't have an actual release date for No Time to Die just yet. It just gives the month, it doesn't give the day. But in all likelihood, it's probably gonna be sometime around November 2020, which is the same day that Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, might even be on the same weekend. At this point, we don't know. Now, some people are looking at this and thinking, oh great, Godzilla vs. Kong has more competition. Personally, I'm not worried about this particular one. Now, some people might bring up the fact that I wasn't worried about King of the Monsters facing competition either and say, you think you're so smart, look how that turned out. But, I mean, you've seen the trailers for No Time to Die, right? It's following in the footsteps of movies like Terminator Dark Fate, Charlie's Angels, and Birds of Prey and the fantabulous constant changing of the title. It's in that vein of being woke. That's the shorthand for it. Cringe at that term if you want to, bristle at it, whatever. It's in that vein. That's the shorthand. And combine that with how technically this new reboot of Bond hasn't seen a good film since 2012 with Skyfall, and Daniel Craig, by most accounts, doesn't even want to do these movies anymore. Yeah, I don't think No Time to Die is going to be that big of a concern. It might be, I don't know, but honestly, all signs are pointing toward it being not very good, and people turning out in droves to see anything else that weekend. However, that's just one aspect of what I'm talking about today. The other aspect is the fact that I am once again seeing people looking at this and saying that Godzilla vs. Kong is now facing so much competition that there's no possible way it's going to work, which means the MonsterVerse is going to end. You know the drill by now. It's been going on for years. People, what I'm about to say comes from a place of concern. I think you guys, or at least a good chunk of you, are going out of your way to justify being paranoid by blowing things out of proportion. The more I see about this sort of thing, the more it feels like everyone is setting unrealistic expectations solely so they can continue to be concerned. This started back in 2019 when Godzilla King of the Monsters date was getting moved and people were saying, but then it's going to be competing with this movie and that movie and the other movie. It should be moved to some other date. And then we had it repeated with Godzilla vs. Kong. We're still having it repeated. It was originally supposed to be in March and people were going, no, it's going to compete with Disney's Mulan. It's never going to win. So then it got moved to November and it's like, no, it's going to compete with Marvel's The Eternals, which is also Disney. It's never going to win. So you have some people think maybe it should go to the summer where the blockbuster movies usually go. No, then it's competing with all the other blockbusters, some of which are produced by Disney. It's never going to win. It's almost as if what people want is for Godzilla vs. Kong to be released in a month where there is no competition, which isn't going to happen. I hate to break it to you, and I'm kind of surprised I have to, but wherever it turns up, it's gonna be facing competition. And you also have to remember, Godzilla vs. Kong was not moved to these dates just on a whim. I've said in the past that I don't believe box office numbers are the be-all and end-all in terms of judging a movie's quality, but it is what studios care about the most. Studios are businesses. They look at films as money-making ventures, so they want to release them at times when, depending on what kind of film it is, they will get the maximum potential turnout. That's how studios determine when movies will be released. When would be the best time that we can get the most money out of it in theaters? And obviously for a long time now, particularly since Jaws, summer has been the sweet spot, if you will. That's blockbuster season. But trends are starting to change. February used to be considered a dead month. That's where studios dumped the movies they were embarrassed by. More recently, though, we've seen movies like Alita Battle Angel and Sonic the Hedgehog this year, movies that were released in February that have done gangbusters. So February's not such a cursed month for studios anymore. And more specifically, with November, that's the beginning of the holiday season. It's not the actual weekend of Thanksgiving. That comes the next week. But lots of people are saying these days that the second week is just as important as the first week in terms of telling how a movie will perform. If a movie does well in its opening weekend and then takes a massive nosedive by the next weekend, it's probably never going to get back up again. If it stays steady or does even better, that's a really good sign. But anyway, that's just the basics of it. So you know that Warner Brothers has been looking at that and they think, okay, we need more time to finish Godzilla vs. Kong, so we'll delay it, but we can't just delay it to any random point. Let's delay it to November. Whatever numbers they ran to determine it, that's what they determined was the best. But you can bet that other studios are running those exact same numbers and thinking the exact same thing. They are aiming for those sweet spots as well. So that's ultimately what's going to happen no matter what. If the studio decided they were going to move Godzilla vs. Kong again, they're going to move it to another weekend that would see the best possible turnout, which other studios are going to look at as well. There's no possible way that Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be released at a time where it won't face competition. So I don't really see why people get so worked up about the fact that it has competition. James Bond is going to be released around the same time? So what? Even if this didn't look like it was going to be a trash movie, which, judging by the trailers, it does, it still would be the same outcome either way. You'd still have competition because that's the way it works. Moreover, given how much of the entertainment industry Disney owns these days, you would be equally hard-pressed to find a month where Godzilla vs. Kong could be released and not be opposite a Disney film. That's just the way it is. How that can possibly change, I don't know, but it's an undeniable fact. We cannot alter it really at this point. We can only work with what is true. So, yeah, I really don't understand all of the concern. I understand it to a certain degree because Godzilla King of the Monsters went up against some stiff competition and wound up underperforming. But at the same time, a lot of movies in that 2019 realm underperformed. Good ones, bad ones. There were quite a few that did not quite meet expectations. The entertainment landscape is definitely changing. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know it's pointless to get worked up over other movies being released around the same time Godzilla vs. Kong will be released. If you want the movie to succeed, then support it. That's really all I can say. Don't just sit there and be paranoid about it. If you don't want the movie to succeed, then don't see it. That's how it works. But, well, I'm just here to tell you that there's no reason to be paranoid for this reason. If when we get a trailer for Godzilla vs. Kong, whenever that comes, the movie looks like it's going to be bad, then you have reason to be concerned. But just knowing that the movie's going to have other movies released in and around that same time, there's no reason to get worked up about that. So just take a breath, think rationally about it, understand that the movie industry has competition, that's how it works, and we'll see what happens come November. Personally, I'm not worried. Not about this, at any rate. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.